to the Hellcast live episode recording. Now, you might have gotten this notification and you're going, what in the Heavy Metal Relics? I subscribe for Heavy Metal Relics, not these idiots. Well, we'll be getting into that because we have changed the platform. It is now Reaper Metal Productions, and we're going to kind of wait for a crowd before we kind of dive into what that means and all that good stuff. So stick around. We're going to give it a few minutes to let a crowd build up, or if we hit a double digits or bigger numbers, then we'll get right into it. So consider this the pre-show banter.
They know the drill, or at least the regulars.
Well, we are on a different platform today. We used to do our lives.
Some newbies might not know the drill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got a lot of things coming up, and I wanted to take this moment first to approach the audience that has already been supporting
The YouTube
all the
guys.
Yes, the various crafts of Reaper Metal Productions. So I'll get into, like I said, I'll get into that into a moment. So pre-show banter.
Yeah, YouTube's got a lot more usefulness in this world than shitty ass Facebook. Just trash that thing. Shouldn't even exist.
Well, you don't even use Facebook.
I don't have a Facebook. Don't need it. Unless you're doing business on it, you don't need it.
Why is that?
Why would you want the world to know what you're doing?
Well, why don't you? How do you know to make that determination that it's crappy when you haven't even really used it? Like maybe you.
Because it's a useless tool to let people know things that. Why do you need the whole world to know what you're doing? People say, "Oh, well, I just want my friends and family." Friends and family sure we have your contact.
But
we
we
want to get a hold of you.
We're letting people know what we're doing right now.
Yeah, but this is more of a business aspect. You're running a platform. Like I said, different.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
Howard Stern has a Facebook. Okay, I get it. He's doing something. You know what I mean? If you're
Yeah.
just Joe Schmo at home and working your 9 to 5, you don't need a Facebook. You don't. You just flat out don't. I'm getting by just fine. I don't have one.
Well, there you go.
So
Who likes their hate
YouTube's
Facebook?
cool though, 'cause at least you can watch it. You know, no matter what your interests are, you can find what you like on there.
True.
So that's cool. It's a source of entertainment. Totally different. You know, you're not telling the world and the government and Mr. fucking Big Brother and Uncle Scam and everything that you're your business. You know, why would you want them? You're basically putting that out there for them. Like the government, everybody, whether they're keeping an eye on you or not. If they chose to, you're giving them all your information.
Oh,
why
yeah.
would you do that? That's like, if you really think about it, that's one of the most idiotic things you can do. It really is.
If you believe, if you're a conspiracy theorist.
I'm not a
sure.
conspiracy theorist, but I'm not an idiot to think that they're not watching you whatsoever. If you think that they're not at least glancing, especially when it comes to like taxes and shit like that, paying, and that they are, they
Yeah.
absolutely are. So
Well, Big Brother's watching you, and hopefully, how many people are watching this? This one's a little bit different. Okay, I'm used to the Facebook one. They do work differently here. I get to go from the computer to the screen. So cool. We got double digits. So hell,
already fuck.
Yeah,
YouTube's already better than
yeah,
Facebook.
already better.
See,
Hell yeah.
already better. Entertaining and useful, unlike useless Facebook.
All right, well, we'll get into the metal conversations here in just a second. So while we're waiting for that crowd just to get slightly bigger there, we'll jump in there.
Just like Facebook, though.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Anyone leave
Yes.
comments yet?
No, not yet. So if you're here, leave us a comment. Let us know you're here. Let us know who you are. Say, what the hell is going on with Heavy Metal Relics? I subscribe for that. I want to know. Well, I'll let you know here in a second. So I went to Chipotle yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Have you not known? Is your Chipotle experience always this? What would you like? I will have a chicken burrito. And they just throw that burrito on there, and then immediately the first thing they gotta scoop is some rice. Then they'll look at it, so like, brown or white rice, cool. And then, what kind of meat did you want? Well, first off, I wanted veggies, because I said a chicken fajita burrito, but I guess they never ask about the veggies. They always forget the meat within 2 seconds, and then their chips suck.
Yeah, I never get the chips. They kind of do. They're not. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had them. They're fine, but I don't get them because there's better chips.
Well, that conversation is definitely not any better than deceased. So Bowen, we got a lot to live up to then.
What do I say about deceased?
Bowen's like, this better be good. I stopped listening to Deceased for this. Scott, no, it is not about food. We're just at a pre-show banter there. We're going to be diving in here soon.
Yeah, I just noticed that the employees at Chipotle tend to suck shit. They tend to be those black metal hipster guys too. You ever notice that? Starbucks hipsters?
Starbucks
The
hipsters.
Starbucks black metal hipsters that work there?
At Chipotle, if you got someone that
Yeah.
would be slightly metal, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they got the big gauges, usually
Oh, yeah.
usually a bunch of tattoos, scuzzy hair, a lot of times a beard. Would you say? I mean,
Does anyone work at Chipotle in
I
the
look like
audience? And do you look like that?
But I mean, is that no? Honestly, that's usually what it is. What I get is that what you get in Strongsville?
Don't reveal my location.
No.
No, because everyone's kind of a DV there.
No, there's a lot of those too. But I'm saying the guys that, like you said, if slightly into metal, that's usually what they look like.
The dudes that listen to Kralis, Goathammer said. Kralis. Oh, I've heard of that band. I don't know it. I don't know. It doesn't. It's not coming off great already. So.
Kralis with a K.
Yes.
Yeah,
Krallisc.
Yeah, we've had it. I'm almost positive I've listened to it too.
Man, I'm almost like getting a brief visual of one of their covers too.
I'm 90% sure I've listened to it, but I can't think of what it sounds like. I want to say it's black metal.
I'm assuming so with the gay hipsters looking.
I want to say
it's tech black metal. Scott said.
Yeah, it's. I could definitely picture the logo, and I know I listened to it, and I wanted to say it was black metal. Don't recall if I liked it or not. I don't. It wasn't. I just played in the shop while packing or whatever.
Berserker Bash R. Bale says, "What does it take to get signed to Hells Headbangers?"
Takes some jamming ass fucking tunes and a good work ethic.
Well said. How about that? And like everything, you got to know somebody.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it helps.
Well, it does, because let me reiterate why. Because it's kind of sort of like you're in a stream of like, everybody's your buddy and you want to help everybody out. And so you can kind of get distracted. There's only so much time in the day. There's only so many releases. And I think that's one of the things too. Like, and I don't know if anyone sees it that way, but like if you're trying to get signed to something, it's definitely happened where people get disgruntled. And then they don't want, like, well, fuck that. Is the worst response they can have, or they just kind of take it to a level where they lose, belief in themselves. And you kind of got to take it for the grain of salt that it is. Like, it's not so much that if you don't get a response from like a label or something that someone thinks that you suck. It's more so that maybe they don't think that they have the time to do best by you. Like, for a Hells Headbangers release or. Rush I'm about to talk about.
Some of it, it could be other outside stipulations that have no control over you. For example, it could be like, like for example, for us, we try to hit all the genres. It could be like we've hit too many death metal bands.
Yes.
They're starting to blur together that sound. Like we like your band, but we already had a lot of bands on our label already sound. Don't want to confuse them. I remember when we went to go sign, which we did, Cemetery Lust. Chase was hesitant at first, which I don't think Dylan knows this. Fun fact for Dylan. Chase was a little hesitant at first because we just signed Cemetery Urn. So I just don't want to provide these like two bowl cemeteries. I don't want to provide any confusion. So yeah. But we end up signing them.
Yeah, you got it.
Totally but yeah, that was a consideration of talk. So little things like that do come into play too, just because you have to, because it's your brand and you're trying to get diversified and
exactly. Well, and then you want to do well by who you're having on that brand.
Yeah, and part of it too in this day and age in 2018 is as good as this may sound or as shitty as this may sound, the label puts out your stuff and helping the band out, but it's kind of a two-way street. It's like when we consider signing a band too, it's like, what can you do for us? You already know what we can do for you.
Yeah, and what
can you do for us? I mean, if you're just sitting on your ass, you really ain't doing much. You ain't promoting your band. You ain't doing shows. You ain't doing merch. You ain't pushing or anything. You're just kind of sitting in your mom's basement. Hope for us to do everything. It's like, yeah,
mom's basement.
You know what I mean? It's like that's really not. And especially if you're a brand new band without a fat following yet, it's like that's unless you're shit we just absolutely loved it to death. You're like my new favorite band. I don't. There's not really much incentive for me, man. There's really not.
Yeah. And so there's some of the
things. And the same thing. It's like the same label. If a label's just gonna put your shit out, put out 1,000 discs and let it sit in their fucking mom's basement as well, why would you want to go? You're like, what can you do for? Dude, I could have done that. That's what the band should be thinking.
Yes.
So when you're going to a label, it's because you're thinking they can benefit you, and rightfully so. But the label's also looking at how can you help me out.
Exactly. And wow, I'm gonna need some help here because while I forgot about YouTube is more on a screen name aspect where Facebook, where we always do these live streams, does just real names. So if I butcher your screen name, sorry, but we're gonna get diving in here soon. Rush, will there be any new Will there be any new Crucified Mortals material? I can't even talk. My own band, Crucified Mortals material. Will there be anything new? Yes. I'm about to kind of dive into it here when we start the official episode recording, trying to sort of telling you what's going on, why I switched the YouTube channel name here too, and all that good stuff. So some of that kind of goes hand in hand. But yes, there will be, just been really focused on other areas. But fuck, man, I cannot wait until a lot of that, as exciting as that all is, it's just tedious. And it's not playing an instrument and, writing songs that I want to be doing. That's way more fun. So, this is slightly getting out of my way. And that's a very nice thing. A big lift, things going to be lifted off my shoulders and hopefully can get into music. So, Alan. So anyway, yeah, if I butcher your name, sorry. So there's that. But yeah, Rush, Meredith, Alan, Meredith Lowe. We got 2 Merediths here. I thought it was the other Meredith who's been always watching us. Goat Hammer, Scott, Berserker, Bash, Bale.
Logs names I don't recognize.
Yo, Sumasora. Well, they got screen names now, so maybe it's not.
Oh, okay, same people, but just different.
Yep.
Okay.
Bowen. Oh, Meredith, you're the same Meredith. Well, you should have just let us on. We would have like, oh my God, we got the same name people.
What's the same one?
Yeah. She took her last name off. So, but wow, we got way quicker to a better number of viewers. So I'm already liking Facebook or YouTube better, and it looks like the video quality is like way better. I got like my playback scaled down from full HD, and it looks better than what it is at full HD on that crappy ass Facebook. So I think you're onto something there, old J-Dog. Facebook sucks.
Want to see that shit annihilated?
Well, not yet entirely. It's been helpful.
Yeah, it has its helpful place. It's helped our business too. I mean, Hells Headbangers is a Facebook, but it just annoys me, man. It's just too many robots. You go out, you can't even go out anymore to a restaurant or anything, and everybody's now sitting on their fucking phone.
Yeah.
Glued to it like a goddamn robot.
Oh yeah.
It's just annoying.
That's how you can. That's how you can usually tell how long a couple's been together. If you're out, like you can see the guy and if they're both on their phones, they've been together for a while.
The girl's usually always on the phone.
The girl's on her phone. It's kind of like, well, that guy, he's not doing too well there. And if they're both having a just wonderful conversation, they're a very happy couple.
You don't see that too often. And if it is, it's usually probably a first date for the person.
Right. So if they're really, if she's on her phone on a first date, and
that's
going to the bathroom,
yeah, that's
you're
a red flag. That's a total red flag. That ain't working out.
Yes. So, all right, cool. So, boom. Let's do it. This is Hellcast, and I am Reaper.
J-Dog.
So, we are here on YouTube, and you might be wondering, what the hell? I subscribe to Heavy Metal Relics, and now I've got Reaper Metal Productions. Well, we're going to explain that here in just a second, because today on the show, we're going to be talking about how do you determine whether or not a metal band is awesome, or if it just flat out sucks. Now, you might be thinking, I just like what I like, so what the hell does it matter? Or you might be thinking, well, I like cool things like comp albums. Those have been really helpful in finding other bands. Or, you know what I always really liked when there was those cover albums by some of my favorite bands that are usually just classic bands being covered, but you can really find some cool underground bands that do a kick-ass job and making it that cover song their own. And that's how I find out about them. Or you're like, dude, one of my fan favorite things is listening to that awesome podcast, Hellcast. And they do that, 5 bands in 30 seconds or less. And I just love hearing that. And that really has introduced me to many bands. All that and more, because we're live here on YouTube, obviously. And we're going to be having some fan interaction. So definitely be in the comments. Be a metal nerd. Let's start talking. But let's dive right into it. What the hell is going on? What is this Reaper Metal production shit? So, if you've been a follower of Heavy Metal Relics, Reaper Metal Productions has taken over the YouTube channel. And that's about it. Because Heavy Metal Relics is not going anywhere. As you've obviously seen it, if you've been following the show, you've always seen hostess Bridget England on the camera all the time. And if you've definitely been following it, then you would have seen me doing a lot of videos and stuff. And then now you kind of see me come here and there. And then you definitely see now co-host Dave Overkill from Cleveland's Destructor. He's also a part of the show. So that's entirely what it is. The show. Heavy Metal Relics is a show on Reaper Metal Productions. Hellcast is also a show on Reaper Metal Productions. And like someone asked earlier, what's going on with Crucified Mortals? Well, there you go. I do a lot of stuff metal-wise. Make shows, do music. I was just mastering an album for an awesome band called Ophikas yesterday. And so umbrellaing everything because, man, having all these different social media platforms and pushing different things, it's like, man, we just need to put it all under one entity. You'd watch the Fox network to watch The Simpsons, but then you'd watch a movie that they put commercials on and whatever, and then you'd watch Futurama or whatever the hell. You get the idea. That's kind of the approach that we're going here for. So, if you're new here, definitely subscribe to Reaper Mill Productions. It's going to be the same exact stuff that you've been expecting, only with the addition of more. And especially as we have various different platforms, we can even, not right now, but hopefully in the future, then be posting more content more regularly instead of every Friday at 1 p.m. once a week. So that's kind of sort of the objective. So now you've been officially filled in. But hey, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new. But even better, if you're new, you subscribe, or you're not new and you've subscribed, go to our website, hellcast.net, and join our mailing list. We're not going to spam you with stupid stuff, although obviously tell you about cool new releases, because that's another aspect of Reaper Mill Productions, is there's releases like we did recently, the first release back, because it's been a record label long before that, Reaper Mill Productions, that is. But we did CIST, the Frozen Casket DIGIPAK CD, and then we got another release coming up, and like I said, Crucified Mortals, my band, all that stuff is available at Reaper Mill Productions Bandcamp. But if you subscribe to the Hellcast mailing list, that'll kind of put you in that Reaper Mill family there, and then you will also hear about new episodes. You won't be leaving it up to a social media algorithm that wants to tell you about stuff that you should like, and then you'd be streamed on to something that you very likely may care about. If you don't, you at least have the power to be like, well, I don't care about that episode, and delete. So we won't spam you into the traditional regard of giving you absolute bullshit you could care less about. So, all those plugs out of the way. This episode, like every episode, is sponsored by the good people at Hells Headbangers Records. When you need metal, go to hell. And so, you may remember this band, SPEEDWOLF, Ride with Death. This was out of print for a little while. Pretty popular band.
Was that 08, 09?
I don't even know, man.
I think 2010.
A while.
I think it was 2010.
So we saw the Hells Headbangers has had this going. It was great, and now it's back in stock. So if you're one of those people that missed out on SPEEDWOLF, do you know though if an LP reissue is in the?
I don't know for sure. As a matter of fact, I was a little surprised by the CD because we were talking about repressing it for years. But I guess Reed was the main guy in the band.
Yes, Reed's awesome.
I guess him and the other band members aren't getting along, or at least they weren't.
I heard something like that.
And it's just depressing that this how many copies each guy would get. They couldn't get along, so Reed's just like, fuck it, don't even press it. So I was surprised when the CD went through. So I didn't ask for the LP yet. Maybe Chase got in the in on it. I hope so. That'd be awesome. But I wasn't like trying to push our luck. I was just happy to see that we were able to at least do the CD. But
cool.
Hopefully, yeah.
We're trying to open it. Well, hey, at least there it is. Boom. It's falling down. I was trying to open it because it's got the plastic, so. Boom.
Yeah, it's still a hot mover.
Right
after these years, it's still a hot mover, you know?
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
When it first came out, that was kind of like a hot new band, kind of like Acid Witch.
Dude, when I first met Reed because he brought Nunslaughter out to Denver, and I was in the band at that time, and he didn't have a band. He had done like punk and kind of stuff, and it's like just instantly really liked the guy. Like he was, you know, I mean, you traditionally like people, but like he was one of those people that I felt like just immediately kind of clicked to on a better level.
Yeah, there's
I really awesome
sometimes too. There's not too many people in the world I could say that for, but I know you're talking about. I have gotten that before.
And that's where we had a really fun, like it always is just a story or memory at this point that I always crack up to because one of his friends. So I think I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. Fuck it. We played in Denver. Nunslaughter did. We had 2 shows to play, both in Denver. And quickly we kind of found out, as Clevelanders especially, that, you know, not every city in America or state or in, you know, furthermore countries have the abundance of live gigs that we do here in Cleveland. It's a very musical town, as much as we bitch about how much Cleveland sucks at the same time. So we go there and it's just like, wow, man, like, we're going to play 2 shows in the same city. And so, bam, we play the first show. It gets shut down because it was at like some venue and there was like some sort of, you know, having the rights to have a social event, so to speak, that the cops shut it down. So immediately we had to go to like this bar across the street. And then the next day's show, it was just like, well, we're going to have to do it at the junkyard. And it's like, really? Like, Nunslaughter's as popular as junkyard material? Like, that's like, wow, this seems like a really big failure. But that it was because they didn't really have all these venues to go to. And so it's like, oh, wow, okay. Like, you know, in Cleveland, it would have been just like, well, shit, I know such and such literally down the street, a block. is available. Let's just go and play there, you know, and so on.
Yeah.
So at any rate, that's where I kind of just was sitting at this gig there now at this junkyard. And one of Reed's friends, he's fucking Diamond Leather, man. And one of his I didn't notice it, but we were playing with that band Black Market Fetus.
Mm-hmm.
Now they kind of sort of have a name that can kind of be like that whole Black Dahlia Murder, or I don't know, bands with like sentence long names where you're like, oh god, that sounds awful. Sorry guys, but they're not. They're good. And so sitting there, all of a sudden, this dude, Nate from Black Market Fetus, is like, dude, that's an awesome Hootie and the Blowfish patch. I'm just like, wait, what? Who has the Hootie and the Blowfish patch? What do you mean? Someone's got a Hootie? What? Whoa. A Hootie and the Blowfish patch, you know? Like, whoa. And then where? Like, I see Mortician, you know?
That's like the most horrible band ever.
So then, boom, he had it like right there, literally, a Hootie and the Blowfish.
Wasn't it a joke, though?
So I guess it was a joke, but like, I don't know, man, because I asked him.
I didn't think there'd be Hootie and the Blowfish patches in existence.
Well, it then just became this whole trip-wide joke that I'm sure if I saw Reed again, it would probably come up.
You remember?
I haven't seen him in a while. Oh yeah, I would hope, because it's just, I don't know, it's funny. And so it wasn't Reed that had it, obviously. So that friend though, I'm gonna
was a laser.
Well, maybe not nameless anymore, but
Oh, yeah.
I remember kind of asking, like, so like, you know, I'm not passing judgment, dude, but do you really like Hootie and the Blowfish?
What did he say?
And he made the remark like, well, I wouldn't have a patch if I didn't. And I was like, right on. So that segues then. How do you decipher if a band is awesome or if it sucks? But let me segue it a little bit more, because you made a remark earlier and Bowen jokingly said, do you enjoy 6 Feet Under's Graveyard Classics? And those suck. Let's just answer that right out of the gate. But how do you determine if something's great?
Yeah, just based on I'm real simple in general and everything. If I like it or not. So that's why I can respect the Hootie guy, because at least he's like, because at least he likes what he likes. And he's not a push up. That's a sure sign of a definite not poser.
Yes.
So I like that. I can respect that. I don't know how he can like it, because that's just flat like Kanye said. That's just bad.
Well, that's where the joke kept going. Like,
that's just bad. So it's kind of mind-boggling how anyone can even like that. Like I didn't even think like our parents would like that shit. And as a matter of fact, I don't think they do. So it's surprising, but you know, at least hey, he's not afraid to admit it. But me, yeah, it's just if I like it or not. But it seems like my tastes are a little bit almost like capped off in a sense to where it's like I like what I like, and it's like so much out of that style. It seems like I can't really get into for the most part. Maybe because my ears are just polluted. So obviously, like a lot of the death metal stuff, and you know, extreme metal in general. But I mean, because even like the classic heavy metal stuff, it's really got to be something that really just hits me hard. Otherwise,
well, what's something that would hit you hard though by saying that? Because that's kind of just a blanketed statement. Like, what's more precisely an element of, you just cited heavy metal, so what would be something in heavy metal? Like for me, I would say that if you're a traditional heavy metal band, you need to be a powerful vocalist.
Yeah, no. So like obviously some bands I consider heavy metal that I really like is obviously Merciful Fate, Metal Church. I mean, there's Maiden I like. You know,
And powerful singers.
Yeah, and I like. It's kind of considered speed metal. I like the early Exciter albums a lot, but I guess I can kind of be considered heavy metal.
Well, even Metal Church in a way
it's called heavy metal maniac. So
yeah.
You know,
well, that was a different time too. You know, where
yeah. So everybody considers heavy metal, speed metal, but obviously more of the closer heavy metal than fucking death metal, obviously. Like Sabbath a lot. Duh. Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of more modern heavy. Who's a real modern heavy metal band that you know I like? Not look at the last.
Oh, Lady Beast.
Yeah, Lady Beast is good.
She's a good singer. She's got a good presence.
Yeah, Lady Beast is good. I like that. Iron Swords was good, especially that second album.
He's got a unique voice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it seems like you're kind of sort of honoring that same kind of mentality then, at least for heavy metal's sake.
Yeah, maybe.
Let me approach it this way, because shout out to Will, who's the one that kind of sort of asked this to even get this conversation going. He's made the remark that when it comes to death metal for him, that he doesn't exactly like the Cannibal Corpse Chris Barnes, when Chris Barnes could actually do pretty well at growling, because now he just sounds like a barking dog with laryngitis. But he said he cited like more like Martin Van Drunen kind of stuff. Which, hey, Will, do you have a CIST CD? Because that vocally would be right up your alley.
Yeah, well, I like yeah.
So, and I know that you're kind of sort of partial because the growls would be more of the more brutal death metal, where the Martin Van Drunens would be the more old school death metal. And who the hell knows where we are anymore? Because there's another.
Well,
like,
for example, if I had it like that, when there's that abandoned island question, take 5 records. What would you take going to abandoned island? To spice it up a little bit more, so if I had to go to abandoned island, I can only take one genre with me. It honestly probably would be the more brutal death metal, Cannibal Corpse type stuff.
So it's
that's what if you were to add up everything I listen to, majority of the bands would be in that style, and that crosses way to the Swedish scene too. Dismember, Entomb, Grave, Unleashed. I would just put that in the same category because it's like the '90s, late '80s, now early '90s death metal.
Mm-hmm.
That genre from across U.S., Scandinavian, South American, all in that year frame. That's what I primarily listen to the most. But yeah, obviously I listen to a lot of black metal, thrash metal, heavy metal. But if you were to add it all up, that would be the primary genre that I listen to the majority of.
How would you cite a kind of a thrash metal band that would be what's appealing in a thrash metal band? I think this is a pretty good one.
I generally like the darker, more like satanic based thrash metal.
Yeah.
Like the First Sacrifice, Torment Fire,
mm-hmm.
Creator, Pleasure to Kill, the stuff that's more dirty, darker sounding. Like Blood Feast, Kill for Pleasure a lot.
Yeah. Because I know, knowing you and I know the audience knows less, is that, you've always kind of cited that it was more of the, thrash, because thrash can really, we got party thrash, and which...
It's more the darker, the more gruesome,
Yeah.
Like obviously Rigor Mortis.
The West Coast is not your forte, because that can, not always, of course, but it does.
Yeah, I like the first...
of course, the East Coast.
Yeah, I like the first 2 to 3 Anthrax albums. So I like Exodus, Bound by Blood a lot. I like the early Metallica albums. So I do like those quote unquote
early Metallica. Ouch.
Early Megadeth. I like
I'm joking.
I like early Metallica more than I like early Megadeth. I know you're the other way around, but I like early Megadeth. So I like the trendy stuff too. The bigger, the bus, where everybody likes. Love the early. Out of all the big bands, the first 3 Slayers are my favorite by far.
Well, yeah, Exodus.
Bound by Blood.
Like Dread said?
I said.
Oh, you said, okay, cool.
Bound by Blood.
Well, maybe Dread, did you ask Exodus because it was like, well, maybe you meant the band Bonded by Blood, which is...
No, I didn't mean that. I meant the album Bonded by Blood, the Exodus 1985 album.
Yeah, which kind of is the only album for me when it comes to that.
Yeah. Pleasures of Flesh has some good songs. The sound quality on that album sucks shit for whatever reason. Why is it so goddamn low? Like, you gotta crank it to hear it.
Oh, Pleasures of the Flesh, yeah.
It's got some good songs, though. What's that first song, Deranged? That's pretty good. It's got some,
Just that voice, man. Steve Souza. Oh.
He didn't bother me like he did you. I thought he was comparable to Bailoff as far as the style, who they're going for. It wasn't like he was way out wing, like this is like totally different. I kind of got it. I mean, it just a lot of those other mid-tier later albums I didn't get because, like I said, it's more of that party thrash that I wasn't big on Wehrmacht and stuff like that. DRI. I wasn't big on those bands. I don't disrespect them or hate them or anything. They just didn't do much for me. That wasn't really my thing.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to hear everybody else too. Dread, Dread, Blue Drum, Vomit, Goathammer, Javier, Scott, Meredith. Like, what do you guys, and anybody else that I didn't mention, of course, how do you kind of, like a band? Like, if you have to really kind of think about it, don't just keep it as, well, I like what I like. Well, think about how do you identify it to know that you might like it? Because I was kind of sort of just being a dork about it, thinking about it. Like, what do I like in a band? And I realized it more so pretty much yesterday, hence the timeliness of this conversation, because, like I said earlier, I do a lot of mastering work. And so I was working with this awesome band, Ophiuchus, who, style-wise, man, like, it's all over the place, because it's kind of sort of like that, I guess, black and rock and roll thing. But then it's got that heavy metal edge, but then it's got, like, this... Sabat from Japan comes to mind, where not so much Gazole, but Gazole is just out there too as a vocalist. But particularly when the guitar player that is no longer in the band, Tesman, would do vocals. There's something on that To Pray Sabbatical Queen album where it's Tesman Osman singing and his vocals are just like really.
It's loud. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
It's totally ridiculous, and that's what Ophikas will sometimes do. So at any rate, mastering this album and kind of sort of going back to the mix to get a little bit technical on you, because as a masterer, you can only do so much to fix sort of problems that you might hear in how this is sounding. And so we're going back to this, and so it made me kind of more so realize, like, wow, after having done this project, I really appreciate Ophikas a lot more, because I really got to, A, be a nerd that will, for one of the variables for me is sound of a record, and I got to kind of like identify what sounds I don't like and want to see fixed. So that helped. And then time and really getting to know the album, which as an adult now, I don't get to do, as much because I'm mastering or doing podcasts where I'm not listening to music right now. Mm-hmm. And so how important is sound to you? Is that something you really think about?
Not nowhere near as much as you do. Probably because you do it.
Yeah.
But it is more so than it was in my younger years, just because you do start to notice that a lot of shit just starts to sound the same.
Yeah.
So in that sense, yeah. But I've always said if the songs are really good and they really stand out, they just get your blood moving, then I can overlook the sound.
I'm with Scott. Big thing other than that, but it's still sound based. He said drums. Totally, man. Like, now if you got a heavy, especially, always going to come back to a heavy metal band, because people that don't know how to sing can be in thrash metal and death metal bands, because they can, acquire the way to present a good vocal in those forms, less,
They can, but a lot of times too, like that's where it's coming to, like you're saying, the death metal shit, which is what I primarily listen to. It's getting a little old in the sense to where no one's
gives
coming.
A shit.
I don't know about give a shit. Just they're kind of just doing what is going to be acceptable. Like just grow on a microphone. This is going to be acceptable. Like I'm all for the growing on the microphone. But the thing is, if like you listen to, for example, you listen to like Tomb of Mutilated, growing, right? You listen to fucking the vocals on Deicide, growling, right? But they sound different. Then you listen to Suffocation, growling, right? Still, so they all had character. Then you put on Carcass Recomputefaction. They all had different character to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Now and then like look at a band that's really unique. It's like Macabre. And they do their
Speaking of
yeah, but he had his lows too. It's like the bands had character.
Yeah.
Now it's just, or look at a band like Unleashed. She's not growing, but it's death metal style vocals. Another character.
Yeah.
It's like, why the fuck they can't do that?
Where's the characters?
Yeah, it is. That's why I liked the early bands of, like I said, that third generation death metal, the really, really brutal stuff. The early bands like Devourment, Last Days of Humanity. The reason I liked it is partially because of the vocals, because it was another character. Like a lot of the gurgling and shit, it was like totally, no one was doing it. Like no one sounded like that when those bands were first coming out. I'm like, oh, this is fucking different. It's still, it's really brutal and it's different. It doesn't just sound like, okay, another guy singing Into the Grave. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just now they just get in there and growl, and there always was that aspect with bands that just did that. But now more than ever, it's like you're almost guaranteed it's going to be something you've heard before.
It's almost like then the just go in there and growl was kind of sort of like the up and coming fresh thing. So in a lot of ways, they just had that aspect of being in the right place at the right time because it was a pioneer at that point. Mm-hmm. Where now it's more so laziness.
Yeah, because the thing is,
the mold.
And I hate that word. I use it as its place, but for the most part, I hate it because it's just a lack of a word to go to. People say original. Well, how can you be like that's probably what they're assuming I'm referring to as being original. That's not what I meant. Because you could use a band like, how can you be original nowadays? Yeah, there's probably not much to be original out there. You probably come up with a thing or two, but for the most part, it's all been done. But what I'm saying about the characters. Take the first Acid Witch. I don't really consider that a death metal band, but it's death metal style vocals. I consider it more like a doom band. His vocals are very unique.
The first one,
yes. Is his vocals original? Not really, but they're unique and they're different. They can be distinguished.
Especially unique. The lack of originality really kind of worked then to become slightly in a more original sense on that particular example of the first Acid Witch, Witch-Tanic Hallucinations. Mm-hmm. Because it had Lassie from Hooded Menace, and he was doing low death metal vocals, but to a style that, like you said, it wasn't really death metal. But I guess because it had that, it kind of walked.
Like you could walk, once you knew the album, you could just walk in, and then they did a new album, you would know it was him.
Yeah.
You just had that character.
But
you know?
character is a very good thing. Now, we said drums. I think one of the biggest things, especially today, and that's a second runner-up, by the way. If I'm going to put it in an order, drums might be first. I'll tell you what.
Well, if you want character drums, I don't know much about drumming, but what I do know is this: if you're playing a blasting death metal band, you want a little bit more character today. Do fast blasting drums with no triggers whatsoever with a raw recording.
Well, see,
That'll
that's the
be
thing.
more original.
It's not so
It's
much
not original, but you know, it's character now because who the fuck's doing that now? Nobody.
from a producer standpoint of recording. It's not so much triggers that render a bad sound. It's the use of the triggers. If you use them to do what they were designed for, and that is cut off any background noise that the rest of the drum set that can give, so that you can single out just your drums or whatever drum that you are triggering. In most cases, that's just the bass drum. Then you can just cheat and you can make it perfect. Like, people are going to hear that dishonesty. So that's where they can really suck. But it's just then people will leave it to then not trying to, because what the trigger is at that point then is just a signal. So then you can find whatever sound to then make that kick drum sound like, and nobody gets a good one. Nobody gets, you know, a nice thuddy one. They just get a nice, and it's like, what is going on? And then I've often bitched about that. So, like, what we lack is kind of sort of that, like, you know, the 70s rock, honestly, like, 70s rock and Fenris just came to mind right there, because he's the one that kind of said this, and I agree, but I was always thinking it. And he cited Uriah Heep in that. But it was like, just listen to that drum, man. Like, it's just, it sounds like it's in this little room. It's not like, it's got like this, you know, it just has this almost room reverb to it, but it's just a nice, thick, full set where it's not, like, metal really like tries to just dial in single aspects of the drum rather than mix the drum to be a drum. Like, it's like, make sure my kick is heard. So, well, what about your snare and your toms? Like, well, we just don't care about that, you know? And it's just always about the speed. Like, so it is like that mentality. It's just like, no, just play the fucking drums. You know, well, how cool would it be kind of, and maybe that would help offset it to be a slightly different genre, where if, like, someone, and I don't know how this would translate, frankly, but where someone played a 70s style rock drum sound to a death metal band. I mean, like, imagine a blast, you know, to like a Uriah Heep drum sound.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Or like an AC/DC sound, drum sound, yeah.
Yeah, like Phil Rudd's blasting. He's just, you know.
Yeah, probably it'd sound cool. And I think it goes back to what I said for the most part in one of the previous episodes. I think majority of bands out there, they're not music fans. They're into being a band. They're music writing fans.
Yeah.
They're fans of basically themselves and just writing music and enjoy writing music, but they're not really listening to a lot of themselves because it's so obvious, because they're just using what modern technology is, whatever the norm is.
Yeah.
They're just going with the times. The 70s Uriah Heep, they were just going with what they had. Now it's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally know
no
what
one's
you're saying.
going back to like, well, I really want to sound like this, because they're not music fans for the most part. They're not.
And
most bands are not. That's going to offend a lot of people, but that's just the truth.
Yes.
You ever notice, if you ever, like, a lot of people I know, even in the underground, like, I'm talking about underground metal bands too, like, you go there, like, you go to their house and you see their collection, they'll own like 10 CDs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I'm
not going to mention any names, but there's a lot of that. It's like, dude, you're not a metal fan. You like playing in a metal band, but you're not a metal fan. Me, I have thousands of fucking albums because I'm a metal fan. I'm not in a band, though. Maybe I should be. Maybe I'd be a sound that I like then, you know?
Yeah.
And try to create something of my own sound, because now there is metal fans in our bands, but I'd say as a majority, I'd say majority of the guys in bands are not metal fans. They're fans of being in a metal band. They enjoy playing it, but they're not so much outside listening. And there's a lot of bands. I remember seeing, I'm not going to mention any bands too, but a lot, like death metal bands too. I remember like when meeting them outside, like way back in the day as a teenager, like their tour bus and shit. I'm not even joking, dude. They'd be playing, like in the background, they'd be listening to fucking like Leonard Skinner and shit. And I remember at like 16, I'm like, the fuck you listening to Leonard Skinner for? Something like, why don't you listen to some fucking death metal? You're in a death metal band, or listen to that new fucking Enthroned album that just came out last week, or you know what I mean? That was my first introduction to it, and the more and more I stumbled across it, I was like, half these fucking guys don't even actually listen to the kind of music they play. Yeah, they probably grew up on 7 churches and shit, but they're basically the old geezer now. Yeah, you know, I'm burnt out. I listen to the old stuff, but they're one of those guys.
Great example. And so Trap Daily said, sorry, but unless you're a drummer yourself, I don't think most metal fans even notice drums like that. Drums are just there. We notice riffs, vocalists, and bass lines first.
Pretty much right, yeah.
Which I don't know if I entirely agree with that, but that is a damn good point. That's your opinion, so I'm sure there's definitely like-minded people of that. But let's cover different areas because we've only covered drums and vocals. And yeah, guitars are important. Now the thing of it is sometimes I don't know if a song will entirely rely on the riff. Of course, it depends on the style of music, but you could get by with a shitty riff sometimes if you had like a good vocal that, especially in like maybe heavy metal. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna kind of sort of reject that because you need some riffs. But I guess just variables of the guitar, be it the riff or the sound, you can kind of get by slightly half-assed because you could almost give it some character in that. At least, if that's my best point with that, that would be my point. Is that you can get by with, if the guitar had a shitty guitar sound, you could almost write it off as like intentional, and that could be cool. Because in a lot of ways, you could say that people could have thought that Celtic Frost's muffled kind of tone was shitty for the day, but now it's like awesome and hailed, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, that's where I would go with that at least. But I don't know. I mean, it's there to care about the guitars. As a guitar player too, you know, you'd think it definitely. But I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, for me, man, like it really just comes down to something, either something individual will hit me, and a lot of times that could be an awesome drum sound, or then, yeah, it's just something within the mechanism of this album or song or band. But I wanted to, first and foremost, agree with Scott, or not Scott, Blue Drum said the new Cardiac Arrest album is killer. I have not heard it yet, but I've heard the one before it, I believe, or at least a close up to this. I'm pretty behind. And it was a band I kind of sort of had followed. I've known Adam Scott for a while.
I should Adam back today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Adam's awesome. He's and there's a metal fan for you right there.
Yeah, exactly. He's one of the few guys in a band that are still fans.
Have you heard the new Cardiac Arrest?
Not the newest, but I didn't. When did the newest one come out?
Just recently.
Oh, then no.
But that's like a band that I don't think. That's a good example. I'm glad we brought that up because, and granted, I got to hear it, but what I know about them and remember about them for the albums I do own and have and like, is that they're not trying to do like, hey, we're old school, let's try doing this. Like, they just do it.
He just plays what he wants.
Yeah, you know, like we talked about Matt Harvey with Pounder last, which I listened to that Pounder 7, which I did not realize they had like a full-on ballad. I was like, whoa, Matt Harvey. But like, they just do it. We're metal fans. And so it's just not like they're not sitting there going, well, I don't know, you can't do that guitar, you can't, I mean, maybe they are, or you can't trigger your drums, like, they'll just give me a good sounding record.
Well, the difference, like I said, is like, well, it's all about those, how majority of bands aren't fans. Someone like Adam for Cardiac Arrest, I could totally see him, you know, picking up something like CIST and listen to it, coming home after work, having a beer, listen to CIST.
Yeah.
He's the type that would.
For sure. He would pick it up. He would pick it up.
That's what I'm saying. He's the exception. He's not the rule. Most of these bands, they're going home and listening to fucking Skinner or going on Facebook. They're not. I'm telling you, they're not going home and listening to shit. And when their fucking gauntlets are out, you know, the metal kahunas are coming out. Yeah, they're dusting off Show No Mercy for the year or Possessed Seven Church when they bought when they were a teenager. Yay, does that even count? Who the fuck doesn't own those?
Exactly.
Does that even count? Like, if he bought the new CIST, that counts.
Exactly.
Dusting off Seven Churches, that should just automatically be there. That's like saying you don't have a bar of soap in your fucking your goddamn shower. It just should be there.
Exactly.
They don't count.
And I full-heartedly agree with Omar right there. Yes, you should check out the Heavy Metal Relics video at Athenar's house from midnight. But honestly, you should check out every Heavy Metal Relics video. And for anyone that didn't tune from the beginning of this episode, I was explaining that this channel was Heavy Metal Relics, and now it's Reaper Metal Productions. Don't worry, it doesn't mean Heavy Metal Relics is going away. It means that we're introducing what Reaper Metal Productions does. That is put out CIST CDs. That is produce Heavy Metal Relics videos. That is do live streams that are Hellcast. And homeboy right here is the guy that makes it all happen. Not toot my own horn, but I kind of sort of am, and that's the whole point of the switchover, to make it easier. So there is a playlist compiling everything of the Heavy Metal Relics channel. Since it's not, it lost the channel aspect, so you can't just go like Heavy Metal Relics for a channel wise, but you could easily access it by doing a Google search or going through the playlists on the Reaper Metal Productions channel to find the one simply labeled Heavy Metal Relics, and that's literally every single video that we've done and will be continuing to do and putting them there. So check that out for sure. After this live stream, though, you don't want to navigate away from this. This is some good stuff because we're going to get into the next thing. Comps. Do you care about compilations? In a way, I sort of think metal and compilations is starting to be, I mean, they're still happening, so they're not, I'm not going to say that they're irrelevant, but it almost seems like compilations are more so a punk and hardcore thing.
Yeah, I can't even think of the last one I've seen other than the ones that we've done. Am I a fan of them personally? I'm actually not. I used to be. I think they're a great resource for the younger bucks that are actually excited about music, which seem to be few and far in between, but the ones that are, awesome. Glad to see it. Wish there was more of you. For them to check out bands. Because I remember like getting the ones from like Relapse Records and shit, New Year Blast. I loved that crap. That's how I checked all the new bands. I heard a lot of bands like this band, and literally I would go out as soon as I had money and bought those albums that were on there.
Well, you know what?
So I think I think they're great for that. But for me now, I'm just in a different area of life to where because I can just check out the shop and shit. But I think it's a great tool for the young buck. Well, times are different too just now because with YouTube and stuff, you can just check shit online.
Yeah,
I think they were a great thing 15 years ago for sure. I thought they were a great thing.
Well, and then now I really have nothing more to add to that because I'm the exact same demographic. But like Blue Drum just said, give a shout out to King Folly from Deceased, who yes are from the United States. I absolutely love Deceased, who I would not fully put into the death metal bracket because they have death metal albums, but something like Supernatural Addiction, it's kind of sort of on the heavy metal realm. But various other genre stuff there. But at any rate, so Deceased was on a compilation. Damn if I remember the title of it though. Ajna. The Ajna Offensive put it out. We have it in stock. And it was an exclusive track. And then Ghoul was on it as well.
Is it that, you're talking about that picture disc?
Yeah, it's like this picture disc and man, I don't want to interrupt the live stream to look. But
yeah, the LP, the songs like Werewolf's Curse.
Yeah. So like I just said, I don't really care about comps, and really any comp I would have would either be ones that my band Chris Von Mortal has been on, or anything I've been involved with.
I have that record.
And then what's that?
That Ghoul Deceased.
And then exactly. Then I would buy something like that.
Those are exclusive songs.
Yes. It's almost like the most extreme split in that sense.
That's a good one. Yeah, so I'll buy them in that sense. Just like the very early comp way back in the day, even before my time, was the death metal comp. You know what I'm talking about, with Running Wild.
Yeah.
Hellhammer. I'm drawing a blank. The Running Wild, Hellhammer. What the fuck? Halloween and who's the other band? There's only 2 songs on there, and that's
Dark Avenger.
Yeah,
the band that, but they didn't do anything after.
No, they do have a demo out there.
Really?
For the life of me, I can't find. And DOTD, he's like, I never could find it. But supposedly, I think even Metal Archive says they have like a 4 or 5 song demo. I would love to hear it. I thought there were 2 songs and they were fucking great. That's the only way you're getting those songs is that comp.
Yeah, and that's. But again, that comp was Noise Records, the death metal comp, which none of the bands on it are death metal, but they were, I guess, death metal of that time. Those songs are exclusive to it. Yes. Or those recordings, because the Hellhammer songs on that.
Yeah, the Hellhammer was the only one, but the Running Wild is.
Those are exclusive recordings, right?
I think they have, but the Running Wild, that's all that came. I mean, it came out on other shit as bonus and stuff years later. But that's the only way you can get those 2 songs, and those songs are great. Bones.
And then the other thing, although I don't have them, but as far as my Metal Encyclopedia tells me, the Metal Massacres from Metal Blade, the ones they did before like the 90s tapes, which would be like a comp I found out of bands, but when Metal Blade was doing like later comps and like most labels are doing, they're just kind of like samplers. and that's another aspect, real quick. But anyway, the what was I going to say? Oh, Metal Massacre was one of the more old school comps, though, that you got exclusive recordings, at least, if not songs, to that comp. And so I think that's what kind of sort of got lost to today's standards.
Even what we do, it was being put out more as like an advertising purpose, like advertising bands, which nothing wrong with that. We do it too. But that's what they switched over more to the means as far as advertising their bands. So just taking a song off their upcoming album, so we could check it out, see if you like it, and then when the album comes out, you pick it up. That was more their means of how it, while it was coming out.
And even like for the days of like when Relapse was something to be curious about.
Yeah, back in the day.
And Central Media, furthermore.
Like
those comps were very helpful, but you did not get anything that was exclusive just to that comp.
No, you didn't. And I was fine with that because that's how I found out about all those, bands. A lot of them, ordered from Relapse, they'd throw that in there. And I remember when you were getting those early samplers that did Relapse, I would say 75 to 80% of the bands on there I liked, and then the other 25, 30% I didn't. But I found a lot of bands that I liked, a lot of bands,
Yeah, absolutely. What about cover albums? Do you care?
I don't generally care, but they're enjoyable.
Because those could be comps in their own.
They can. They're enjoyable in the sense if it's a band that's I'm a big fan of, and they have several albums under their belt. I'll give you an example. That's why I think Deceased Cadaver Traditions, I actually think it's an enjoyable listen. Some of them are kind of silly.
Yeah.
But it's an enjoyable listen because Deceased has so many of their originals, and it's just cool to see, because King's an actual metal fan, unlike a lot of the guys that, like you said. It's cool to see who he'd cover. You'd be curious, like, who's next? And his take on it, because like when they come, like for example, they cover Empatego. It's but Deceased stuff.
Like, what would that sound like?
Yeah, so that was kind of neat. So I liked that. Another band that did a cover album that I enjoyed. I did it years ago, fucking like a long time ago now, actually, 18 years ago. This Hemorrhage, Loathe Songs. So anybody that knows anything about me knows I'm a huge Hemorrhage fan. One of my all-time favorite bands, actually. Hemorrhage from Spain.
Yeah.
They did a cover album, so that for them is cool. Like, for example, if like DSI did a cover album now, I'd pick it up. I would just hope that they wouldn't pick like, we're gonna cover Deep Purple. And,
oh God, I know.
Like,
I hate.
Don't do that. Cover metal bands. At least.
Vader comes to mind as a really, because the other example would be, and we didn't really go down there and say anything more about it, but 6 Feet Under, Graveyard Classics. Now it's awful, but it's also additionally awful because Van Halen.
Did you cover Van Halen?
Yeah. I mean, it's gotta be awful. I don't think it was Running with the Devil. It was On Fire, I think. But like, it's horrible. Those songs won't provoke the curiosity of like, man, that's gonna be awful. At least for me, of like what you know said,
what I
like
think the help is though.
It provokes like, this is gonna be awful. I gotta hear
the outside. What, especially because 6 Feet Under went on doing their later albums, it attracted a crowd that people that I'm not a fan of personally, in the musical realm they're into. What I think it's brought good to though is a lot of those young kids, because they cover. I remember they covered like Merciful Fate and shit like that. I think it brings attention to these metal classics that these kids would never.
I know, but like fucking Merciful Fate would.
Yeah, but how did you want to say? Yeah, hey, I think you're a little hard on him
because he sucks.
Yeah, but that's also the ears of the beholder.
And I behold some pretty opinionated ears that I've seen a lot of other people agree with.
Okay, so if he's going to call Merciful Fate, that's like, say that's one of his all-time favorite bands, which actually very well may be. He loves Merciful Fate, sure. And in his mind, if his goal is
Chris Barnes, you're talking about.
If his mind is like, I see all these young kids come out to my shows, like they don't even know who Merciful Fate is, disrespectful. They just got a Slipknot shirt on. It's like they need to see the light. Well, he's not going to try to sing like King Diamond. It's like, okay, this is how I'm singing now. I agree. So I see the purpose in it. It just comes off as silly because you know the originals. Like, for example, I'll be honest with you.
Right.
When 6 Feet Under was good, Live Undead, that was the second release they did, covering Grindr and shit, I didn't think that was silly.
I didn't think so either. And I'm so glad you said that because I recently bought that. Again, the 6 Feet Under, Alive and Dead, I thought it was.
Live and Dead or Live Undead?
Alive and Dead.
It's a good disc.
It's like an EP, and so yes, that's when 6 Feet Under did their first cover, and it was Judas Priest Grindr. And when I got that as a kid, no, I did not hear anything wrong with it, and I bought it again, and I still, well, hold your horses, I didn't hear anything wrong with it. But I did notice. I was like, man, I would always say that Chris Barnes didn't get like bad vocally. Like he's just a bad death metal vocalist now. He's the pioneer, but yet he's horrible now. And yet I'd always say, well, the first 6 Feet Under, whether you hate it or not, like he at least still had those chops. And that continued to go on to even some of the bad 6 Feet Under because those just got bad because it was like bad songwriting and kind of
that first 6 Feet Under haunted. That's a great record.
Dude, he was actually kind of sort of hinting to bad on that EP, Alive and Dead. It's there, dude. He's kind of barking. He was losing.
Yeah, but to his defense, like if you actually read old interviews with him and stuff, he was trying to do something different. Yeah, he was trying to do something different when he said like he's trying to bring play that down-tuned music with growling vocals, but he said with some groove to it, to where he's like you can kind of like tap your foot.
Hey, that's fine.
So I get his point, and to be honest, he kind of did do something original and different because think about it. Prior to that, who was doing like this death metal groovy stuff prior to it? I can't think of anybody.
Honestly, that's just the difference of this guy doesn't like it, so if you don't like it, turn it off.
Yeah, but the thing is, with him, even the bad 6 Feet Under albums, dude, I would a million times rather see that
than
but Korn and all that other
garbage. No, 100% agreed. But I am just saying, he is the equivalent of like our dad when he would rip on everybody's dad, I'm sure. Anybody's parent that would be like, you just like that growling stuff, like anybody can do that. And we all know the difference between, no, everybody can't do that. And so the difference of someone trying to do that, it's just, dude, stop. You're embarrassing yourself.
Yeah, well,
and Chris Barnes, at this point, needs to stop. He's embarrassing himself.
He's an old man and looks like a freaking ex-meth head. And I'm Kurt meth head or something. Because last interview I saw
from Alan West.
He was looking really bad.
Previous Hellcast response.
Guy was looking like he was 90 pounds and fucking damn near the grave.
Yeah. Now, Bowen says 6 Feet Under was never good, and that's where I want to lay the 6 Feet Under thing to rest, because you said earlier today, and I'm kind of sort of censoring it, that if you do not like the first 6 Feet Under album, we got a problem. Why would you say such a bold statement?
Because it's a great record.
That's it?
Well, because, honestly, like, what's not to like about it? It's like, it's dark, it's a mix of, like, it's the ex-Cannibal Corpse singer, with like an obituary sound, basically.
Yeah, because it had Alan West.
Yeah, and it was great. I mean, everything, all the songs were catchy, but they weren't bouncy by any means.
No.
The vocals were brutal, yet you can understand all the words. It was kind of like a sing-along death metal album. You know what I mean?
With what Obituary then just kept doing on all these subsequent albums since their reunion, that just bore me to tears and I think are predictable. It's almost like you got what they're good at, and that's making generic riffs. That you need to have a good vocal line that could catch you to be like, okay, that generic riff now works, and that was the first 6 Feet Under album. And then Chris Barnes got bad. They started doing covers. They lost the Obituary sound. Obituary came back, and I don't even want to go there. I've already done that, and that's my progression.
Yeah,
digression.
It was just the Obituary stuff. Yeah, it's just kind of a lot of stuff that when it just got boring.
And yes, I remember Monstrosity. I do not remember Monstrosity.
First 3 Monstrosities are great. The first 2 with Corpse Grinder, and the third album, Imperial Doom, that's a great record.
Yeah, but I gotta tell you, Monstrosity can kind of sort of...
What's the third album called? The third album is with the guy zapping that angel. It's the first one without Corpse Grinder. What the fuck? That's the tour I saw them on, too.
Oh, Warfare Noise. Someone's asking. Sarcophago. Who else is on that?
Sarcophago... is
Sex Trash?
I think Sex Trash is on there, and so is who's the fucking
not Shackle or whatever the hell with CHA.
I think they are on there too. Yeah, I think they're on there too, and so is the H band, with that Nazi band.
The H. Oh, Holocausto.
Yeah, I think they're on there.
Yes, Ground Zero. So Shackle. I don't know. I'm sure it's probably Portuguese that I'm butchering. Well, there you go. Yeah. So Warfare Noise. That's a comp. However, it's like right out there. I can go grab one. I haven't heard it. Is it just exclusive songs by the
problem is with it was probably cool.
Mutilator. Yes, Mutilator.
Yeah, the problem is it was probably really cool when it came out back in the day. For me, it wasn't cool at all because all the songs I'm interested in, you already got them. Like they came out already as bonus tracks, something. So it's like, you know, maybe at the time it's like, oh, these Sarcophago songs are unreleased. I don't remember because I wasn't around when that came out. That was what, 85 or something.
What do you mean? You weren't
alive, but I wasn't.
You're in the room with a headset.
Yeah, exactly. So when that came out, yeah, I'm sure it was really cool. But getting it, hearing it when it was re-released, it's like, oh, I already know all these songs. I already have them. So, it wasn't as special to me as opposed to you know, the people in the 80s that got it, I'm sure was awesome as fuck, and I would have probably thought the same exact thing. But
Rustlin, sorry if I butchered your name. Now that's what I call a real metal discussion. Feel like my powers are growing. Well, I like to hear that. I like
what's a real metal discussion?
just this, like, you know, because we're hitting a few new people that have never heard Hellcast before, and that really flatters me. That's like one of the biggest compliments that we could ever receive, and a lot of people say that, and that's like, wow, truly job well done. Because back to my Reaper Metal Productions thing, so maybe you didn't hear that. You know, it was Heavy Metal Relics as far as the YouTube name. Now it's Reaper Metal Productions. And with Heavy Metal Relics, with Hellcast, with everything I do, that's precisely the really effortless effort is that it's like nobody does this kind of stuff. It's always like some stupid tabloid that you're only hearing about what that band is doing because they got a promotional person getting them an interview or getting them some sort of coverage. And it's just like, I don't care. I am still talking about Warfare Noise from, 30 some years ago, because I'm just a fan first. And then, yes, maybe we will bring up a new band because I'm just a fan, man. It doesn't matter if it's a brand new release. I'm sick of hearing about, you gotta like this new release. Like, no, man. And when it's a sales pitch too, like, I really I'm even less interested in it. And so, like, yes, I would rather, if I'm going to even introduce anybody to something, and I'm not even trying to, but I guess at the same time I want to sit there and talk about it. I want to sit there and say, hey, you might think 6 Feet Under sucks. Did you ever listen to the first album, Haunted? It's actually pretty good. And wow, no, Reaper, I severely disagree with you. Great, I'm glad you do, because you're not a poser then. You don't have to agree with me. You know, because you have an opinion. That's what makes you a true fan.
If they say they didn't like Cannibal Corpse, they didn't like 6 Feet Under, say they didn't like anything by Chris Barnes, I would say, hey, have you ever heard his thrash metal band from back in the day, Leviathan? Something like it sounds like Creator and shit.
Yeah, it does. Well, even the first Cannibal Corpse is thrashy in its lyrics.
Yeah, the demo, yeah. Well, the first demo has got the thrash. No, but I'm saying his vocals too. Like it's kind of like Creator. But so somebody if they're like, I don't like Cannibal Corpse, I don't like 6 Feet Under. It's like, check out the Leviathan demo. You don't like that. And I'm not talking about that black metal band Leviathan either. I'm talking about the Chris Barnes from I believe the demo was 87, I believe.
Okay, you'd be better to know. I was thinking about Blue Drum's comment. Am I a fan of the death metal band Deadly Spawn? Right off the top of my head, I'm like, I know that name. That's a Japanese band, though? Deadly Spawn?
I don't know. Right off the top of my head, I could definitely, the name sounds, it's ringing some bells, but I don't know why.
The name is definitely familiar.
Are they on?
I don't remember.
Are they on like British Brew or anything? It's definitely ringing a bell. Like I can almost picture the logo.
Yeah. There's like this death metal band. Remember Singapore, a Singapore label, not Pulverized, but the other Singapore label that I don't think is around anymore. The guy's name is not, Roy is Pulverized.
Mm-hmm.
This dude's name is, oh man, I forgot it. Andy?
Andy Tan?
No. What was, not Conqueror? He did an Italian band that you also liked. And I wanted to say that was almost Deadly Spawn. Do look it up. Japan. Okay, so Deadly Spawn is a Japanese band. I'm confused. I'm going to spend the brief second utilizing
I'm trying to think of the Singaporean label that did an Italian band like that.
Yeah, it was like an Italian band that kind of had like a Swedish death metal tone to them. And I forgot what.
You're not talking about the Mexican band Dark Creed, are you?
No, but we're getting closer now. Because what label put out Dark Creed?
I can't think. They just did that one album, Dark Regions, and then they did that other. Talk about cover albums. It's like, man.
Oh yeah.
What do you guys? You guys got one album. What are you doing?
Okay. So at least I was right. Deadly Spawn is a Japanese band, but they were not on that label. And so no, the answer is I'm not familiar with their music, but very well familiar with their name.
Yeah.
I will have to get acquainted with them. So while I'm not trying to figure out Warfare Noise and whatever this label, I'm trying to like,
what is a label? Yeah, it's probably something we traded with way back in the day.
That's precisely what it was.
Yeah. Where
like that would be and that's where to put the cover albums, which my opinion is I don't care for the most part. I think it could kind of be cool, and like I've said before, I think we should cover this now.
Well, especially if they cover like I said, like I would love this. Like I think like for example for me, like a Deicide doing a cover album would be cool. But if they're to cover like cool shit, like I know like Glenn likes like SOD. Cover that. Don't cover Halen and shit like that.
No.
Say like a cover like I've always brought up. Somebody cover Rigor Mortis. Do some interesting good shit. Then I'd be like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. band you've been listening to all your life, and they're doing a cover album. It's by other metal bands that you like or potentially would like.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they start throwing in Van Halen and Deep, it's like this
it's kind of just stop. Well, it's kind of sort of like, so okay, this is going to take a derail, but we kind of hinted to these points. So Dirk Buren, I can never, I butchered his name even when I shot the videos, what we did, who is the drummer of Megadeth now. Now on this show, we would obviously point out, like, I'm sick of hearing about the big four. And so we did a Heavy Metal Relics video that is going to be posted. We actually have a giveaway that we're going to be doing, and I hope I'm not shooting myself in the foot. That's going to be hopefully next week's video here on the Reaper Metal platform. And you can win. All you got to do is go into the Hellcast or the mailing list. Wait for the video. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. At any rate, I was really stoked because Dirk, who is a member of the Big Four, so you would think, oh God, he ain't gonna like anything. Nobody in that band is gonna be, down to earth and know these metal bands. But who also kind of comes from that scene that a few episodes ago we had Thomas from Redefining Darkness, and I kind of approached that subject that, like, hey, you were in a band like Abigail Williams, or, well, you weren't in them, but it's kind of like a Black Dahlia Murder, who I pleasantly found out that I always thought that was like new metal sentence names that are awful, but it was like, oh, like if you like Gothenburg death metal, like you would like this kind of stuff, because that's what it kind of is. It just has a name that kind of could set you aside. And that's the world that Dirk kind of has been in, because he's been in like a band like Soilwork, who's, I think, in that caliber. But we did a top 10 with him. And holy shit, man, he knows his metal. He is excited about, and he's excited about it. Like, he knew who Hells Headbangers was. Like, I gave him a shirt of Hells Headbangers. I gave him a Crucified Mortals 7-inch and LP, my band, and a shirt. Got to do that. And so I've been in touch with him ever since. We're doing the video, we're doing the giveaway and stuff. And like, we were not talking about anything I gave him. And then he ended it with like, hey, and by the way, the LP and the split 7-inch were fantastic, kick-ass, by the way. And I was like, wow, I actually believe he actually listened to those. Because I would be the first guy like, hey, he ain't gonna listen to it. Because that's what I was thinking as I was handing it to him. I was like, he ain't gonna listen to him. And he did. And he did. And he remembered months later. Like, it was months ago that we did this. So when you see the video and you wonder why everyone's like dressed warm, like, wow, Cleveland's really cold in the summertime. No, we shot it months ago.
You never posted any of that stuff?
Not yet, because we got to, because that's why I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. I got a website around it. I'm going to be the first to say, like, we're giving out stuff, but, we're trying to push the Reaper Metal brand and everything that this is by doing so, because that could be pretty big. And I think, like, Megadeth's should share it and stuff like that. So we got really cool things happening. And that, to me, is back to Chris Barnes and making these awful cover albums where you're, Van Halen or... I mean, dude, like, because you said, like, well, he wants to introduce it to kids, and I get that. And
that's my guess.
But, well, no, you're right, because I think he said that, and I've looked on YouTube videos of the Graveyard Classics albums, and there are people who I can only assume are kids that are like, oh my God, this is better than the AC/DC version. Because I don't know if you knew, but one of the Graveyard Classic albums is AC/DC Back in Black covered to its entirety. Now, think about that for
I never even heard it.
Dude, it's kind of like someone said in the live feed, like, it gets old pretty quick, but it's pretty hilarious when it first starts out. And that one, it's up and down, because it's like, you want to, like, since, for me at least, every song, you're like, wait, I gotta hear. And so, now think about the songs on Back in Black for a second. And so, now you thought about it. If you were like me, you were like, man, I gotta hear You Shook Me All Night Long. Like, how is he going to sing that one? Like, is he going to do it like Brian Johnson does it, where he kind of sort of sings, and you, Like, and how is he going to do it? And he does it. He goes, it's like, and it's awful. And it's an everything in pure comedic, yeah. It's like, dude, it's like a tongueless dog. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. And I love it. I need to own it, because if you've been following Hellcast, this is not new. I've been talking about this for years,
like
man.
Scooby-Doo?
I guess in a way it is. Scooby, what's up, But then it's like, to me, as that guy that I guess is the fogey that knows not only AC/DC classics and love those. Like, I mean, who doesn't like Back in Black?
I'm sure there's people watching.
I'm sure they don't, but whatever. That's great. But you know it. And so, knowing that, and then with Chris Barnes, you're like, this got to be great in a bad way. And then you did it, and then everything it is. But then when you see those people saying, this is amazing, you're just like, I don't know about amazing, man. I would give you that like you like it, but amazing?
Maybe entertaining, listen, because it was funny.
Yeah. You might be going down, if you just found out about a death metal band through that connection of knowing who AC/DC was, through whatever Barnes' objective was, you're going to listen to some other death metal.
Like,
I don't know where I started with that band.
Who's that Japanese, not band, fucking voice maker? Remember you make the sound effects and do songs? And you do covers for it, like Maiden and, you know what I'm talking about?
I'm sorry, I was just laughing at Dred's comment where then he said, now that you've compared 6 Feet Under Chris vocals to Scooby-Doo, I'll never hear them the same way again. No, you won't. But I'm haunted. No Scooby going there.
Yeah, I don't even know Scoobs on that.
No Scooby snacks on that one. Graveyard Scooby snacks. That'll be the next one.
Who's that? What, Dukaka or like?
Oh, Dukaka. That's the beatbox.
Yeah, no, that's entertaining. Listen, because it's fucking hilarious.
That's hilarious.
You're just like, this is fucking ridiculous.
I want to impress. I wanted to impress Rodex. Sorry, man, these screen names though. But you said Amit, so I just want to like be like that guy that could like, well, you like Amit? Let me pull it off the screen because boom, Amit, Amit Extreme Speed Satan. So yeah, because they're from Chile, right? Or
South America.
South America somewhere.
Maybe Brazil, South America for sure.
But anyway, I just wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Stroke my ego, I guess. Yeah, so, kind of just that. I don't know, we got totally derailed. So, boom, let's hit you with 5 random bands, and then we'll wrap all this up, because we've been here for... Come on, YouTube. Oh, 6... Okay, cool. They don't give you the time right here.
Talking about Scooby snacks.
Yeah, we're talking about Scooby snacks. Getting me hungry here. So 5, let's segue here. Did we have anything else to plug? Well, shit, I'll plug it, because I've been doing so much plugging myself. Crucify Mortal, Psalms of the Dead Choir, the last album we've done. We're working on mostly me, are working on new stuff, and it will be a wee effort when it is done. But this is the latest release, and it's available at Hells Headbangers, which the link for that, CIST, and SPEEDWOLF Ride with Death are all in the description on this video and live episode if you're listening in the rebroadcast at hellcast.net. So, we're going to do 5 bands randomly, our first thoughts in 30 seconds or less. It's great because you never know what those thoughts are going to be. So,
and then you might be thinking, fuck, I should have said this.
Yeah. And then if you're like us, we totally just break the mold of 30 seconds, and 30 seconds becomes 5 minutes. But we'll try to keep it down.
Yeah, try to keep
so we'll keep the stopwatch going.
Last time we did it was pretty good. Might have hit a couple 60-seconders, but we did pretty good about it.
By the way, I think Goat Hammer saying is Amit black metal.
It's like that black and thrash, like
but more like
sarcophago, like just that South American sound.
I was just gonna say, would it be safe of me?
Black and death thrash. This is a South American metal sound.
You agree that there's a South American sound?
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Like a Swedish sound. Yeah, absolutely.
So you can't just say black and thrash.
What does that mean? There's an Australian sound too. A lot of the
totally.
Gospel
which horns. Would very well be almost like a more, I guess, better, more properly done South American sound, if you could, you know what I mean? Because they're kind of like in that black thrash.
Yeah, the South American, I can get it. It's dirty. It's more.
Well, right. I don't want to say that the Australian bands aren't dirty. Because a band like Vomiter sure as hell is.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it's a different dirt. It's almost like they just have a different... We're going to be talking about a dirt analogy. It's like South American have their vacuum cleaners, and Australia has their vacuum cleaners, and they're both picking up dirt in a different way.
Yeah, but it's kind of like that. I mean, it's
what kind of analogy is that?
Sweden, their dirt's is fucking more... It's like almost like their dirt's identical. You know what I mean? You got the buzzsaw guitar. It's like the dead giveaway.
Yeah. So... Well, they got all the same vacuum cleaners.
Yeah.
But
it's all the what's the popular vacuum cleaner nowadays?
Hoover, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an oldie though. There's all that new shit that's out.
Fun fact is I have not had to buy a vacuum cleaner in years because someone in the family was working for Dirt Devil, and I was just getting free vacuums like every month. And ironically enough, we needed those vacuums every other month because all the other ones we got for
that seems like dude. I mean, in the last few years, I've had to buy 2 or 3 vacuums, and it's very fucking annoying. It's like, well, the vacuum should last 15 years, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, forever. So, 5 bands in 30 seconds or less. This game, or whatever you want to call it, works where we just throw this down. I got patches here, and I just dug through a pile of my patches that I have been sitting around for years that I haven't sewn on yet. And we're just going to go, and first thoughts that call off the top of your head, you say them.
It's
30 seconds or less.
Time frame, you ain't never sewn them on.
No, it makes it become an awesome segment. So first up, J-Dog will go first, and then I'll comment. The band Demonical. Boom. That's a cool patch too, by the way.
Demonical. I remember when they first started off, Swedish band, Martin side project, post-Setinex is what I've always considered it. Thought they were okay when they first came out. I thought their latest album, Chaos Manifesto, if I believe it's called, that was great. Best album that they've done to date.
I did not know who Demonical was, but I was first introduced to Demonical by doing a Scandinavian tour with them in 2007, I want to say it was. And that was when I was in the band Nunslaughter, so that was really cool. Got to meet those guys, and then alternately got to meet the drummer of Grave, Ronnie, who was in the band at the time. So it was a really cool nerd thing for me, because it was like I just connected to like that world of like the greats of Swedish death metal with Grave by that experience, and then found a cool new band that is carrying that torch, and then yeah, just put on an awesome new record, Chaos Manifesto. All right, next up, here's one you're gonna love, Exorcist. And to be clear, because I think there's plenty of them, the one that you should just think right off the top of your head, from New Jersey, I believe, because of the whole tie with what's that band? But at any rate, the one that put out Nightmare Theater, Exorcist. First thoughts?
Oh, love that record. Glad they didn't do anything else because it was kind of nostalgic and mysterious.
Yeah.
Still this day, no one knows 100% who the band members are. At least I don't know. I mean, I've always heard the rumors. Kind of surprised there's certain individuals never heard of them. And yeah, I thought they're great. I think it's like a must-have. I think it's a must-have in every metal collection.
I knew about them for a long time. It was just like one of those names I couldn't tell you how or why, in this sense at least. And like you just saw that cover, and if you don't know that cover, like you kind of should probably almost see it if you're into like old school metal, because it's just really cool. It's like a bunch of masks. They look old school in like the 80s sense of like cool looking gruesome masks. And it was just like a record that like, I gotta hear that. Like, that's my life's mission, even though if it might suck, I gotta hear that. And when I finally heard it, I thought, wow, those are bad sounding drums. I still think that, but goddamn, is it a good record.
Yeah, I think
they sound fake. I think it's an electronic drum set.
I gotta keep my ears peeled next time. I guess they stand out to me.
Oh, there you go. All right, next up, if I'm right with that, the Exorcist was New Jersey, or at least the New York area, well, then this is going to be right by that house. Boom! Blessed Death.
Kanye always boasted about them. I wasn't a huge fan. It was more thrash metal. That was kind of like, background thrash for me. First album, I have to go back and listen to it again, but I just remember Kanye always excited about them. Thought they're fucking,
All right. I remember that same excitement.
Yeah.
And at that same exact time, because I'm pretty sure we're talking about the same exact date of when Jim Sadis from Nunslaughter was hyping about him. And what he was hyping about was the early days of Hells Headbangers being in both, because me and Justin are brothers. I don't know if we've ever divulged that information, but me and Justin shared a room. And then there are the two brothers of Hells Headbangers, they also shared a room. And that was the first Hells Headbangers headquarters, was those rooms. And Jim Sadis was over at our parents' house. And we had, it wasn't we at that time, because I had nothing involved with Hells Headbangers other than relation and sharing a room. So all this shit was in my room. And so was Jim Sadis looking through and going, holy shit, you got Blessed Death, destined for extinction.
I think it was a bootleg. Wasn't it a bootleg disc?
It was a bootleg disc old Metal Records did.
Yeah,
it had the bonus. And then I remember him saying, wow, this is over 30 seconds. I remember him saying, like, dude, you got to put on the song Into the Oven. And in the beginning of the song, it's like, dun, 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 dun. It's like a little, it's kind of just a creep up, and like he growls. Like, ugh. And I remember Kanye, because he was always very, the metal visuals. So like he would do the theatricals. Like, listen to it. Do you hear him growling? You hear him growling? Like, I hear him, Jim. And just, it was a great story that Kanye with his metal theatrics, in a lot of ways, you were like, oh my God, I love this band. And then you would buy it, and then a week later you put it on, and you're like,
yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, what happened? So, yeah.
I think just his energy came off to his excitement.
Yes.
It's kind of spawned,
Yeah, oh, totally.
So.
And real quick before we go on to the next band, Ground Zero Salem, I believe, asked, didn't Exorcist have some sort of connection to Pile Driver? I am 98% sure that yes.
That's what I've always assumed, yeah.
But the other bands who really cite is Agent Steel, Virgin Steel.
What about Original Sin?
Well, Original Sin was then another band that had those same people. So the story goes that the band Virgin Steel is Exorcist, is Pile Driver, I believe, with the exception of Gord, who's the Canadian aspect to that, to then say that Pile Driver, the Exalted Pile Driver, is a Canadian band. I don't think the band is, actually. They might be now. And I think sort of with that connection and this modern date of reissues is one of the reasons why we have not got a Pile Driver reissue, because a friend of mine, or Dave Overkill, who's on Heavy Metal Relics, and Cleveland's awesome Destructor, he knows Gord, and they kind of said, sorry, Gord, I'm giving all your stuff. But he kind of said that Gord is, like, he kind of got screwed. And, like, none of that, he doesn't really have access to some of that stuff. So I don't know how true that is. So that's kind of sort of what I know. Additionally, what J-Dog just said, what about Original Sin? That's a band that when you look at the picture, it has all females, and it's written off to be all females. Which, of course, the singer is, who is a relative, I think, sister of the guitar player of Virgin Steel, who then the Virgin Steel band encompasses Original Sin, who, when you see the band picture and the names are all women who real names might be, but those women depicted aren't exactly on there, just the vocalist. That's what I know. Next band, Dark Angel. Thrash in here.
Yeah, classic thrash band. Great thrash band. Darkness Descends, great album. It's definitely not one of my all-time favorites, like somebody's. Like, I like Sacrifice better and those type of shit, like, as opposed to most people like Dark Angel. But it's a classic, and I wasn't like the band Merciless Death and didn't realize they had a song called Merciless Death. I was aware of it.
But that you thought, hey, maybe they named their name after that. Wow, I might get shit for saying this. Dark Angel, really? What comes to mind is, I love it. I love We Have Arrived and Darkness Descends. And I might have to go back to Time Does Not Heal and
Scars?
Leave Scars.
Yeah, those are good albums. They're good.
Because that's what it is. Everyone's like, those are good albums.
They are.
I don't remember being good.
No, they are. They're good albums. It's just not what is Don Dottie singing or whatever.
Well, right, but
it's just different singer.
Well, Time Does Not Heal is the one that really... Leave Scars, I kind of forgot. I just remember, Time Does Not Heal. I'm just like, where's the... What the hell is this? Like, where's that? You know? And so it's just kind of... But man, that
Leave Scars is definitely an aggressive thrash record.
What is that singer's name? Eric something or other? I think it's someone else.
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
But that same singer, though, he is the singer then on Ultimate Revenge 2. Doing those classic Darkness Descends songs, and man, does that guy have some fucking energy. So, he's a great front man, and maybe I just need to go back to his albums. Maybe I was in the wrong mood, you know? Sleepy. The production on Leave Scars is pretty shitty, but it still is an intense album. Oh, okay, maybe that's what I heard. Back to like what you think is crappy or not, Scott. Maybe I just thought the sound sucked, and that because that there are like Persecution Mania by Sodom actually. I don't really like that record because I think it's very bland in production. Fight me on it. People do, but I don't. I think it's lacking in production. That's my opinion on it, at least. All right, here's might be slightly an obscure one. We got one more band. We got two more. Atomizer from Australia.
Great band, very underrated band. Best album by them is Only Weapon of Choice. And I think they're a must. An absolute must.
You want to talk about a band that honestly is pretty original.
Exactly.
That's a band. That is a band,
man. You could throw in the same category, like, oh, you could tell he likes Venom, but it doesn't sound like Venom.
No.
It's like...
They do one of the things that I would be like, come on, that's a cover that should not be, but it's a great song. They cover a lot of the sames. So, Motorhead Ace of Spades. Don't they just speak English or die?
They do. SOD speak English or die.
And whatever.
They cover Venom Black Metal.
But it's never that. Even though it's one of those bands where the front man is a bass player, so it's a very bass kind of attractive band, which a lot of metal bands should be. All metal bands should be, I think. And they, whatever. But it just doesn't do that, I don't know, that, like Lemmy worship kind of thing. It just never goes there. even though it's so much there. It doesn't do any of these trendy leanings. It's like, wow, this is a band that sounds like that band. And especially on their last album that Hells put out too. What was the last album called? Do you remember?
So was it Songs of Slaughter?
Songs of Slaughter, Songs of War. I don't know if that was it, but
No, it's well that can make it a 7. We did a double 7-inch picture disc, but that's pick that up, folks. See if you can do that. That's a sharp looking release. Double picture disc and that cloth bag. I think that's Songs of Slaughter, Songs of Sacrifice, and then the last album. I'll be honest with you, I didn't care for the last album.
see, I gotta go back to it though.
I said the same thing. I gotta go back to it too because it was.
He does like that talk kind of thing.
It was different. Yeah, that's what.
Which
I was like, it's like because I thought the album before that, like I said, Only Weapon of Choice, I thought was fucking great because they did Death of Forever and Death Mutation, Disease Annihilation. Those were good albums, but I thought that Only Weapon was like, holy shit, this is the best thing. So I was expecting equally as good as Only Weapon or better, and then it was like, oh, what the fuck?
Because then that's what the greatness of that band is. Like, Only Weapon of Choice, that title track, first song, kicks out. Fucking blasting, it's fast as hell. But then you get to a song where he does a different vocal style. The vocal style that he did on that last album, mostly, that from what I remember, that I somehow didn't like, but yet it's one of my favorite Atomizer songs, and that is When I Die, I Want to Die Violently. And he kind of does like that talk, then he goes into his rasp.
I think that's
it's kind of like an emotional song.
The thing is, I think that's why they did that. I think that was like the hit on that album. So I think that's why they
had
did
more
that
in them.
They had fourth. Well, probably maybe try to run with it and didn't come off the same.
Yeah. Atomizer.
But Jason Healy, the front man, he's the one I got a lot of my really rare Australian vinyls from that were out of print that I got. I met him on eBay and we stayed in contact, and that's how we kind of signed Atomizer. Like, for example, Destroyer 666, King of All Kings, 7-inch on blue vinyl, only 100 made. I got that from him because he's from Australia, obviously. And Gospel of Horns, their 12-inch mini LP, and I like one of their 7-inches, and Satanic Speed Metal by Destroyer 666. A lot of those vinyls that were already long sold out of print.
Yeah,
I got them. I mean, because I started talking to them like the early 2000s, and I missed out on those, and I got it from him. And I got some other shit that wasn't Australian too from him. Some pictures and stuff, but a lot of records I own today that are kind of pride and joys I got from him actually.
Well, I want to make this mention. Let's hear a fuck yeah Hobbs Angel of Death in the comments. Because talking about the Atomizer thing, because then they were the first band that then it went on and it happened, but they are responsible for me knowing, because I love Hobbs Angel of Death, who are also from
Atomizer?
Well, let me tell the story. Atomizer is an Australian band, Hobbs Angel of Death obviously, classic Australian. And a lot of Australian bands are seemingly proud of the scene, rightfully so. And so, Atomizer did something really freaking cool, speaking of covers, and they covered Tyrus, which is Hobbs Angel of Death. And they put like liner notes in the 7-inch that it occurred, and they talk about that. They're like, this is from the rare demo, and I'm like, man, I gotta get that demo. And I needed that 7-inch, and I got that 7-inch, and then someone did put the Iron Pegasus did a full compilation, because as far as Tyrus was concerned, before they then changed their name to Hobbs Angel of Death and pretty much repeated the same songs, you're not really getting anything that Hobbs didn't just regenerate with Tyrus, but you're getting that whole pre-band thing. So like, it's kind of like a Merciful Fate scenario where if you follow that, like there's the early stuff, you can find bits and pieces of the classics within differently named songs of then a differently named band. And Tyrus did that, however, they only had like 4 songs. So it wasn't like it was an all, oh my God, because they're pretty much the songs you knew, but then I think there was one song on there that had a different name, and that had some of those classic riffs. And then that was just a demo, and then they had a live show, and then Iron Pegasus put it all together, and then you got the complete discography, and I thought that was freaking cool. You know, you gotta be a metal nerd.
Well, speaking of other thrash recordings I like I said, is the kind of thrash that I like.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite thrash of all time is you can look this one up, folks. If you don't know this, is Black Ace Records years ago did a split LP of the
KK from Destroyer, right?
That's KK from Destroyer. Yep, the KK Warslut. He put out a split LP by the Australian band Incubus, not the Incubus.
Yeah.
Incubus and
Spectral Birth.
And they changed their name to Spectral Birth.
Jan, I know you're listening, man. You love it.
They did 2 demos. Incubus did a Sinful Dreams demo, and then they changed the name to Spectral Birth and did another demo. That's some of my favorite thrash ever. So in case you're like, what kind of thrash is J-Dog like? Put those on. That's the kind of thrash J-Dog likes.
Do we have any Incubus Spectral Decay?
It's kind of
Spectral Birth. Sorry,
it's kind of like Slaughterlord type thrash. You know that?
Oh yeah,
fast.
Slaughterlord fans.
gotta like Slaughter Lord, man. It's a must.
Well, that's kind of obscure stuff, though, in a way. Like you
Yeah.
got, so maybe people might not know it, and that's cool too. So,
That's
Kellen,
not-
you were the
that's-
only one that said F. Yeah, Hobbs. Do you like
That's
those
why they're
bands?
watching the show to learn.
I would
Put
hope.
down those crappy ass Graveyard Classics albums and pick up some fucking Slaughter Lord.
Yeah, leave the kids to discover some AC/DC. All
Actually,
right.
didn't I could be wrong about that? Didn't 6 Feet? I mean, because I haven't heard any of those Graveyard Classics. Didn't they cover Slaughter Lord?
6 Feet Under covers Slaughter Lord.
I thought somebody of that caliber did, and because I was like, whoa, like really surprised. I think they might have, and if it wasn't them, it was somebody that was like you wouldn't have expected. Because I was shocked.
I'll tell you what, though, I don't know, but even Scooby Snacks, Chris Barnes would have worked better than AC/DC, where bar power.
Yeah.
Like that would work. Now,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't quote me on that, but I think they did. And if it wasn't them, like I said, it was a band of their caliber size. Because I was like, holy shit, they covered Slaughter Lord. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't expect that.
I don't know.
You-
You know, speaking of Slaughter Lord, real quick, I don't want to like get mainstream on it to mention this, but I just think it's funny, and this is one of the reasons why I don't have problems mentioning him. Ghost. Because Tobias Forge, as now his name came out, he was in Repugnant, and he's a death metal guy. He's an extreme metal fan. So there was an interview where like some clueless like mainstream guys like talking about Australian bands, and he was not expecting for someone in Ghost or anybody, frankly, to be like, I like Slaughter Lord. He'd probably be like, well, yeah, AC/DC. And he did. He said like underground shit, which is like, oh, well, at least if he's in a band that seemingly people love or hate, you can respect him, that he knows his music.
You mentioned that.
And so when he said that, what's that?
Did you mention that Incubus Spectral Burst split?
He didn't mention that, but
Awesome.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
that,
it is,
like
it is,
he would cite something like that, and then the Australian guy's like, dude, I know Steve, who's a comedian, who was I think in like other like Mortal Sin and stuff, bigger, slightly bigger Australian bands. I just thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Needless to say. And then last but not least, Sathanus or Satanus.
Jaws of Satan, man. I mean, Black Earth, great fucking LP. They have several good albums, Entering the Diabolical Trinities. Some of their albums are kind of like hit or miss, but definitely a lot of good albums. I think they're a very underrated U.S. black metal band, especially with all these trendy people just liking black metal and putting out paint, don't like them. But yeah, if you claim you're if you're Mr. Black Metal, I'm Mr. Tough Guy Black Metal. That's all I listen to is black metal. And you ain't got Black Earth in your collection, just get the hell out of my shop.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's just going back to their first album. Sathanus, who are not only friends as well, that I had the pleasure of doing a European tour with, so definitely really got to know their music better than I had already pretty much knew it, and I did know it, but found a way more appreciation to it. They have a new album out. Just came out.
No, I didn't know that.
Band that is a band, when you're talking about a badass album cover, they always deliver on that. Don't you, dude, think about it. Nightmare Apocalypse,
cool, yeah.
fucking awesome.
I think that's more
cool.
recent times, though. No, because like Thy Dark Heavens and shit. I mean, was that?
Well, I don't know. Maybe later, but still, there's a lot of awesome artwork in their collection. And yes, I don't think it's safe to just say black metal, though. That really does not give it justice. There's so much more
does.
there.
You know what, though? It does, though. You know why? Because all these shitty-ass fucking, don't even mention names, black metals, they ruined the term. That's black metal. Heavy, catchy, songs are different, can understand what he's saying, especially if you're following the lyrics.
But yes, still has that rap.
Yeah, it has some testicles to it. It's not just some fucking estrogen-filled black metal. It's actually fucking man's metal.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, no, that's black metal. It's just I just think the pussy shit is fucking kind of overtaken.
Yeah,
it's kind of taken the genre.
Going back to how do you decipher if a band's awesome or shitty? It's got the good vocalist. It's got the drums. It's got the riffs, and it's got the bass. Bass could be a little bit louder in some recordings, though. and that's Sathanus for you. Those are the thoughts on Sathanus in probably 5 minutes or less.
You know what, the first album, the one thing my one complaint on it is?
I was reading Dread's remark of estrogen-filled black metal. Cradle of Filth.
The early Cradle of Filths are great, man. The early ones, but yeah, they later became very much so.
But Dread, I think you might be a new Hellcast listener. Hellcast.net. Go back to our previous episodes. There's like, 80-some episodes where we do a What Happened segment, and folks who've been watching since JR's been kind of more, been the regular co-host,
For a while now, yeah.
We're going to get a better live feed going. Fun of the future for Reaper Metal Productions. Where we can now do those segments again. They didn't go away. A lot of people thought they went away. We're going that way we can broadcast the music and comment on it, because otherwise if we're wearing headphones, and because this is just getting the camera phone and we're obviously talking microphones, no one's gonna know. So we need to broadcast that, but we will possess the technology and do that. So at any rate, we did a What Happened Cradle of Filth, and what we kind of found that happened is, yeah, it might be estrogen filled black metal, but it wasn't like so god awful that maybe you think it is. But I would challenge you to go back to support that opinion. Be like, wow, this is just flat out dog shit.
Yeah, but the difference between them two,
they look bad though.
The thing is, I can give them some more credit. Yeah, it is estrogen filled black metal, but it's that's kind of their demographic. They're going for that. What I was referring to is a lot of the underground stuff where they think they're like tough guys, and it's just like, this is kind of like pussy metal, but you guys think you're like tough guys. At least Cradle of Filth, I don't think they think they're like tough guys. It's kind of for like. What's that movie that all those little teeny bopper girls like and shit? That vampire movie that I can't.
Twilight?
Yeah, it's kind of like for that demographic. They think like we're into vampire shit, and they're not really, but you know, kind of that. It's kind of like the black metal version of that. That's how I always deciphered it. But the early shit's great, especially the demos and the first couple albums. Good stuff.
Rod X was saying Sathanas sounds like, and I was ready to conjure up a description, but Scott, I think you pretty much nailed it. Sathanas has headbanging riffs, some speed, harsh, and death type vocals. I would say that sometimes the vocals definitely get in a black metal range because it has like that going on, but yeah, it doesn't just limit itself to that. And it definitely sings about darker, more of the satanic imagery that would be more black metal, maybe subject themes. But it's very much more than that, and it's like Scott said. I mean, I've never talked to you until today, Rodex, I don't think. But and I'm probably butchering your screen name at the same time. But I could tell that if I tell you might want to check out something, you'd probably at least think it's worth checking out. So check it out. That's the best. Yeah, you'd be into it from what I've seen you talk about. What were you saying?
About Black Earth, one thing where you're like, what the fuck is going on? At least the disc I own of it. Is there's like, dude, the time in between songs is like forever. Do you remember that? Track 1 ends, track 2 ends, like for the next song.
For who? For
Black Earth.
For Black Earth.
Holy fuck! When's this next song gonna start? It's like, dude, it's like for sure 10 seconds, and I want to say more like 15, 16, 17 seconds. You're like sitting there like, is my shit fucked up? Like,
well, I think they fucked up the production.
Dude, it's bad. Like it's like the longest gap I've ever heard ever.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, at any rate, this is the point where we've been here for well over an hour, which is usually the time frame we like to do our live feeds, but we gave you a little bit more, and that's kind of what's to be expected now here at the Reaper Metal Productions YouTube channel, which was formerly Heavy Metal Relics, but like I said earlier, but if you did not obtain that information, or you forgot, Heavy Metal Relics is now a program of the Reaper Metal platform, so is Hellcast, and that's what we just gave you right here. Granted, we talking into microphones. When you listen to the playback of the episode, I think it's far better quality, and it segues a little bit better because it does have music and added bells and whistles, which we have not been able to duplicate in a live sense, but we will possess the abilities to do so. And so, with the support of Hells Headbangers, with doing the show, sponsoring it, I want to remind you again, good metal to check out if you don't have it, but maybe you do, because it was a successful release. SPEEDWOLF Ride with Death CD, repressed and available now, so grab it. I don't remember what the LP was, but I think it might be on the repress, and it's slow. And then, Reaper Metal Productions does Heavy Metal Relics. It does Hellcast and do releases. So CIST, the Frozen Casket. If you're one of those guys that don't want to hear the growling and you like the Martin Van Drunen stuff, this is for you. And there's a link in the description, as well as SPEEDWOLF. And I also make music, have a band, Crucified Mortals. Songs of the Dead Choir was our last release, and really always happy when I see fans of all the stuff that we do Reaper Metal like the music I do as well. So that is definitely something to check out if you haven't already, but if you've been procrastinating, well then pick it up. Link for that is in the description as well. So, Hellcast.net is the place. I want you to go there and subscribe to our mailing list if you have not, because you will then obviously be getting, we do giveaways, so we just did one, and if you're on the mailing list, that just automatically entered you into that. And we just drew it from a hat, and that's how that went. And we're going to be doing another one in a few weeks preferably next, and that was Dirk from Megadeth, who, like I said, is not what you would think and likes god-awful music. He knows his shit and has some cool stuff to give away then as a kind of a Reaper Metal launch to coincide with that, and that's going to be a sign up for it. But I'm going to give you a head start. Just sign up for it, because then you're going to be in that bucket. We're just going to draw some names, and that's how we're going to give it away. So hellcast.net, but then also you're not going to have to rely on a social media algorithm to tell you, hey, you might like graveyard classics and stupid shit that, no, you don't care. You want to hear about guys talking about warfare noise and metal classic compilations, or how much 6 Feet Under started out good but then sucked and Leviathan was a good demo, stuff like that. Well, then you got a better standing chance, so why not fill your inbox with something we're telling you you might like, and a release or whatever the hell that is certainly not going to be spam or anything that I would just think you have a good standing chance to care about it. And I'm proud to have straight up transparency in this and be just straight up and tell you what you're going to get. So this has been Hellcast. I am Reaper, and we have
J-Dog.
And tune in next time. Hellcast is a bi-weekly podcast here on the Reaper Metal Production platform. We will always be doing now for our new our live broadcasts. So stay tuned to that, but stay tuned next week for another video here on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And yeah, we got plenty of things happening. So we will talk to you next time. Here is the moment of awkward silence as I kill the live feed. Hopefully this low battery did not do it itself. All right, cheers, guys. How the hell do I end the live feed on this? Uh-oh. I'm really looking like a dumbass. Now this is really getting awkward. I will figure it out. Share. I'm going to share it. I'm not going to exit out. Maybe I should just exit. Oh, crap. Oh, all right. This is the moment I really look like a dumb fuck. Do you want to stop streaming? Yes.